Well, hey, welcome to episode 91 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and today I'm so delighted to have two guests who are involved together in an utterly amazing story. Um, but I don't want to spoil the story. So without further ado, here we go. Here we
Today's guest, Coach Jim and J-Mac.
Hello, Coach Jim.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. So, Jason's having a little, I think, internet issues. I see he's trying to plug back in, so hopefully.
So Jason, as it works, please come on because this is such an awesome story. I couldn't think of a better way to start the story than with this quote. Let me read it and then tell me who said it. Okay.
Yep.
Our country was captivated by an amazing story on the basketball court. I I think it's a story of Coach Johnson's willingness to give a person a chance. It's a it's a story of Dave and Debbie's deep love for their son, and it's a story of a young man who found his touch on the basketball court, which in turn touched the hearts of citizens all across the country. So,
It sounds like
so
a quote from our former President Bush.
that's a quote from our former President Bush.
Yeah.
This must mean that you both have been involved in an incredible story. But I'm curious about how the story began. Like even before you met, you both acquired a passion for basketball. Coach, how did your passion for basketball start?
Well, it started for me when I was a kid. My father was a basketball and soccer coach, and he ended up being my high school basketball coach. And I started to get really passionate about basketball in junior high or middle school. And then when I got to high school, it became my favorite sport. And so I played through high school, had a pretty good career, and then I wanted to play in college, although I only played 1 year, and I actually got cut from my college team, which was pretty humbling. But I loved the game of basketball, so I wanted to stay involved with it. I followed my father's footsteps and ended up being a teacher. And mostly I coached other sports, but basketball was my number one love, and I was a head coach for 30 years. So
30 years. Wow. J Mac or Jason, how did you first find a passion for basketball? Can you hear me, J Mac? Um,
I don't know.
J Mac, please, if the technology starts working for you, please let us know, okay? So so um so how did you and Jason first come to meet?
Well, Jason actually went to the high school. I was the basketball coach and a phys ed teacher, and he didn't try out for basketball his freshman year, so I really didn't know him. But his sophomore year, he tried out for the JV team. I was the varsity coach. And after a few days of tryouts, my JV coach came into the office and said, Coach, we have a young named Jason McElwain, and he's really a little guy, and he's on the autism spectrum. And he's not a real good player, but man, he's got a big heart, and he fits a lot of the qualities we look for when we're picking a team. And those qualities was he had a great passion for basketball. He also was a great team guy. He wanted to see the team do well over his own accomplishments. And he also had a great work ethic. He was always willing to go the extra mile. So my JV coach said, I really want to keep him in the program. I said, well, what do you got in mind? He says, I'm going to keep him as a team manager and let him practice with the team. And that's what he did. And Jason's sophomore year, he was a little guy. He was 5'6", maybe 105 pounds soaking wet. He was pretty little. But he had this big heart and he had great enthusiasm. And so he would go to all the JV practices. He would attend the JV, and the varsity game was right after. So he would stay and be on the bench for the varsity games as well. And that's where I started to get to know him. And then when I really got to know him more was after his sophomore year. He, in our off-season program, he would started coming all the time with us, and that's when we really started to develop a deep bond. I was picking him up from his house and stuff, and that's how our relationship started to really grow.
What is a high school practice schedule like?
High school practice is that for the winter you have to rotate gym time. So we were at all different times. Sometimes we had an early practice, which would be about 2:30 after school. Sometimes it'd be the middle, like 4:30, and sometimes we practiced at night. Our games were normally at night. The JV game would start first, and then the varsity game would follow, and it would depend on where we were playing. The varsity game usually would start somewhere between 6:45 and 7:30, depending on when the JV started.
And how many days a week would practice be?
Between practice and games, we did it 6 days a week. So we usually played 2 games a week, usually on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then on Friday. And the other days we would practice, and Sunday usually would be our one day off.
So 6 days a week. This is not a minor commitment at all, to.
No, it's a very major commitment. You know, the guys that played in our basketball program made a really big commitment, to come to practices. And we did a lot of things. Like we also went in the weight room sometimes before or after practice. We met in the morning to just shoot free throws. We did a lot of different things. So there was a lot of commitment. We also did community service. So we always did something to give back to the community. So it was a big commitment. Our kids were really into it, and they were very passionate about the game of basketball. And it was really a neat opportunity to work with these young people.
So you're convincing teenagers to get up early and come to school earlier than usual, and then to stay later six
Yeah,
nights a week. Like
yeah.
how do you do this?
Well, I think most of the people in our program really like basketball, so that's where it starts. They had a passion for the game, like JMac did. And so the other thing is we started to have a lot of success, and people like to be around successful teams. And so even though we put a lot of demands on our
I hate
players,
Zoom calls.
they really built up. Jason, are you available now? JMac, can you hear us? Doesn't appear, Jason, that he can hear us. I'm not sure.
Just please chime in if you can hear us at any point, J-Mac. Sorry about the technical. So how did so J-Mac try out for the sophomore
Yep.
team then what happened?
Then after that, as I mentioned, he came to all our off season, and his major goal is he wanted to make the varsity team. So he attended all our off season workouts, and he was getting better. But our program was really strong. We had a lot of really good players. So he tried out for the varsity now as a junior, and unfortunately, he wasn't good enough to make the team. But I wanted to keep him involved because he was so committed, and I loved his passion for basketball and the team. So I offered him the varsity team manager's job. And that year, ironically, he at that point in my career, we had been fairly successful. We had a lot of winning records, but I hit a big obstacle as a head coach. We had never won what we call our Section 5 championship, which is a pretty big deal in our area. And Jason knew that. And so at our first team meeting his junior year, he raised his hand and said, "Coach, I got an idea for this year." And he goes, "I know we haven't won a Section 5 championship, but this is going to be different. We're going to develop this slogan called Stay Focused. We're going to help you win your first Section 5 championship." Well, Jason's junior year, we had a good team. We got to the sectional semifinals, which was actually the sixth time as a coach I had taken a team to the semifinals, and we lost at the buzzer to our crosstown rival. And we were devastated. But that didn't stop J-Mac. He came back more bound and determined and came to all our season workouts again as a junior after his junior year and tried out again for his senior year. And he didn't make it again. But during our meeting, I shared with him, I said, "Jason, I really appreciate your loyalty and commitment to our program. I would like to offer you a possibility of going in uniform for our final home game, which we call senior night. And I was hoping to get you in the game." And as I kid people, periodically he would ask me about that uniform during the season. And of course, I define periodically as about every other day. He was pretty excited about that uniform opportunity. Well, I wrote a book about the story called "The Coach and a Miracle" because unfortunately, at the beginning of Jason's senior year, we had a lot of internal strife. It's too long a story to go into, but it caused the team to be divided. And even though we had quite a talented team, we actually went through a losing streak. But we finally got things ironed out at a Christmas tournament. And then we got some momentum, and we won 8 out of our next 9 games going into our final home game, which was our final game of the season as well. And that's what we call senior night. And I gave Jason his first uniform on February 13th. The game was on February 15th. And boy, was he excited. In fact, people heard that he slept in it for 2 straight nights. I don't think that was true, but he was pretty passionate about having that uniform. Well, senior night comes on February 15th. And it was really neat to see how the student body greeted them. And in fact, at the opening part of the game, they started chanting, the student body, they call themselves the 6 men, start chanting, "We want J-Mac, we want J-Mac," I guess just in case I forgot.
At the beginning of the game, huh?
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, they already want to see him. And so my goal was I wanted to get Jason in with enough time so he could score a basket. I thought if he could score a basket, that would be just awesome.
Please explain why you couldn't put him in right away.
Because he was not normally, someone that played during the game. So, in fairness to everybody on the team, I didn't think that was right to be able to put him in right away. So, what I wanted to do was get him in later in the game after our other guys had played. But I also wanted to get him in with enough time so he could score a basket. I thought if he could score a basket, that's a memory he'll keep for the rest of his life. So I actually decided to put him in with just over 4 minutes to go in the game. I figured that would be enough time for he could score a basket. He gets in, and actually what happened next really touched my heart so deeply. What Jason and I didn't know is one of our parents made these pictures of Jason's face and put them on these paint sticks or placards. And they gave them to the student body and said, if Jason gets in the game, show this. Well, I didn't know that was happening either to JMac. When JMac entered the game, our student body gave him a standing ovation, but they showed all these placards, and I got so overwhelmed with emotion. I sat down and tears started to roll down my face. I was profoundly touched at how they greeted him. Well, the game begins now. Jason's in his first varsity basketball game. The first time he catches the ball, he has it in the right corner behind the three-point line. He lets a three-pointer go. The crowd stands in anticipation. It misses by like 6 feet, Jason. It's not even close. And I know you're not supposed to pray in the public schools, but I was praying, dear God, please help him get one basket. Well, the next possession, he actually has a much shorter shot from about 10 feet. And this time it hits the backboard, it hits the rim, and it falls out. But I'm thinking, all right, God's starting to listen. We're getting closer. Then the third possession, he gets another three-pointer, this time from the right wing. He lets it go. This time, magic. It goes in. The place explodes. And I'm thinking to myself, God must be a basketball fan. Not only has J-Mac scored, he's got a three-pointer. It can't get any better than this, right? Wrong. For the next 3 minutes, Jason turns into his idol, the late, great Kobe Bryant, and he starts making shot after shot. And the place is going crazier and crazier. And the two things I'll never forget, Jason, I'm sitting on the bench. Tears are still rolling down my face. I can't believe what I'm watching. And with about a minute to go, I get a tap on my shoulder, and I'm kind of shocked. I look behind me, and it's J-Mac's mother. And she's bawling her eyes out, and she whispers in my ear, Coach, this is the best gift you could have ever given my son. Of course, what would you have done? You heard that. I cried harder. Then how the game ends. Our opponent that night was a school called Spencerport, and I want to give kudos to their coach and their players. They were great sports that night. But they score with about 10 seconds to go. And normally our player takes the ball out of bounds and throws it to our point guard, but this time he throws it right to J-Mac. So J-Mac's got the ball and he's dribbling down, and you see the clock ticking down. And all of a sudden, with about 3 seconds to go, Jason stops about 2 feet behind the arc, almost like an NBA three. I'm thinking to myself, Jason, don't shoot from there. That's way too far. He launches this rainbow. And the next thing I know, I look up Jason, and it's swish, nothing but net. I look over, our student body runs on the floor. Our players run on the floor. I'm thinking the only thing I can imagine is this is like Rudy. This is incredible, except this is really true. Then I'll never forget, our players put Jason up on their shoulders, and he's got the game ball over his head. And at that point, I had no idea how many points he has. And our public address announcer comes on and says, the leading scorer for the Trojans, our team nickname, is J-Mac with 20 points. And of course, my math brain, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he played the whole game. He scored 160 points. That's pretty good. And it was just, it was the most special night I've ever had in coaching basketball. It's a memory I will cherish for the rest of my life. And what was, there's so many great lessons, but one that really, as I mentioned earlier, we had a lot of internal strife, and our team had been divided for quite a bit of the season. So when Jason got in the game, I wasn't so sure how they were going to play with him. But out of their own hearts, Jason, they decided that they wanted to shine the light on J-Mac, which I think is the essence of leadership and teamwork, when you shine the light on someone else. And they kept passing the ball. In fact, in those last 4 minutes, Jason was the only one that shot. In fact, I still kid Jason. If we could get him back on, I kid him still to this day. I'm still looking for first assist. You never passed the ball once. But it was just really special to see how his teammates were willing to shine the light on him. And I mentioned Kobe Bryant, and I'll fast forward real quick and I'll bring it back. 5 months after that, Jason's at the ESPYs in California. He's up for the greatest sports moment of the year. And one of the other 4 finalists for that award was Kobe Bryant, his idol. Kobe had scored 81 points in an NBA game that year, and Jason got to meet his idol, and then he beat him out for the ESPY. So it was pretty special. J-Mac, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right, he's back. So Jason, why don't you ask J-Mac some questions here? Because I've been doing all the talk because we can't get him there. So
So, J Mac, what do you love about the sport of basketball?
It's fast paced. It's exciting. Um, that it's explosive. Um, Momentum can change at any moment. Um, and it's electric.
Hmm. So on that night, was it February 15th?
Yes.
On that night, you get the opportunity in the stands, the crowd's going wild. What did you do to handle your anxiety?
Well, I mean, it's like any normal thing. I mean, like when I first got in, I was definitely nervous, but when I shot the first air ball, I just played after that. Um, and you just gotta play like everything is a normal game.
You had cheered your as manager. You had cheered your team on for years, and then suddenly they're cheering you
That's
on.
how much respect I have for my teammates, because I did that all them for 4 years, and as a team manager, doing stuff that nobody wants to do, and now it's getting paid back to me, which was a really an unbelievable thing.
Well, Um, I really wanted to ask you this. So you try out a few times and you get cut from the team. A lot of people would have stopped and just tried another sport. What what
Well, people who
what
try and fail are more superior. People don't try at all.
what?
People who try and fail are more superior. People don't try at all.
So that's what kept you coming back.
Well, and I love the program. So, and those were my friends in school, and I love the game. So,
So you were driven by love, like,
yeah,
and then you would practice in the off season.
yep.
Why was that?
I always had goals to get a roster spot, and I had goals to win a sectional championship, and I wanted to contribute in any way possible.
It, it's so powerful for any one of us, because how often do 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 we? I'm speaking from my own life. Sometimes I try something once and don't succeed, so I just assume it's not for me. But Jason, you persisted and you got your moment and you came out and you were nervous, but once you threw the first shot, you were just focused on being in the game, huh?
It's just like it's just having fun. I mean, playing every game like a normal game.
Well, one of your so after that game, first, Coach Jim, you were kind of disappointed in the morning what you saw in the morning paper. Why was that?
well, it's because I mean it was such an unbelievable feat that Jason accomplished with the help of his teammates. And when I called it into our local paper called the Democrat and Chronicle, I thought for sure he would get a headline because it's not often that your team manager that normally doesn't play in a game gets in and then scores 20 points. But they actually didn't make much of a deal. In fact, they did give us a headline, but it said Trojans, our nickname, ties for division title. And it mentioned a little bit about Jason in the article. But in fact, I got to school that next day, and I got to admit, I didn't do much teaching. We watched that game film over and over again, and everybody was so excited. And students would come up to me and say, Coach, this is going to get on ESPN. I said, ESPN? It didn't even get a headline or Democrat and Chronicle. But of course, the students were right and I was wrong, because it did end up on ESPN as well as many other TV stations.
But so during this time, you got more and more people asking for interviews and stuff. But your motto for the team was J-Mac was stay focused. Why did
Yes,
you keep?
well, because the bigger goal is to win sectionals more than anything in the world, because the school hadn't done it since '92, and everybody was happy for me after that game, but I was more uh, wanting to win sectionals more than anything. I realized we haven't accomplished anything yet, um, and that was the goal, and we were blessed to do that 3 weeks later. So
So so so you were talking to Oprah, being interviewed by ESPN, CNN, and yet I was on the team and on the team doing what they hadn't done before, huh?
that was the goal. I mean, all the interviews with like Oprah and all them was after the season. So
Oh, it wasn't till after.
Yeah, we had some radio and some TV interviews during our sectional time, but some of the other things, like when we were on Oprah, that was after, and Jason was on some other things as well. But we did a lot of things after that season. But we were after his game, we played for 3 more weeks, so we definitely were barraged by radio interviews and TV interviews and that kind of thing. But then like we didn't leave town until after the season finished. So that's when we started. Like Jason and his dad and I were invited to the Final Four. We went to that, and we went to Oprah, and so we ended up doing a lot of things after the season as well.
What was it like being at the Final Four, Jason?
it was unbelievable. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Well, what are your favorite memories from that time?
I mean, being there, meeting Joakim Noah, the Florida Gators, Big Baby Glenn Davis, Jim Nance, Clark Kellogg, Adam Morrison, all the people I got to meet there was just an unbelievable feat.
Then you got to meet Kobe Bryant sometime
Yep.
later, right?
Yeah, at the ESPYs, and that was a dream that came true that I never dreamed of.
Wow. Wow.
And Jason was kind of the good luck charm because we actually, when we went to the Final Four, we stayed in the same hotel as the Florida Gators, and they ended up winning the national championship that year.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. It's so easy to get caught up in like how much the story rippled out and changed the world, but but there's also the story of being a team manager. And so what was it like being a team manager on a daily basis, Jason?
I just liked being a part of the program. I wanted to win more than anything else. Team together each accomplishes more, and I was trying to star in that role, which is it's pretty unique because nobody else really wants to do that. But I wanted to take that on.
You came to be known as the Snack King. What was that?
I don't know where that came from, but I was known as the water boy too. So and the enthusiastic one from the bench.
Walter Emerson says nothing great is ever achieved without enthusiasm. What did that mean to your team that year?
It meant a lot to me. Everything I do is with enthusiasm in my life. So
What did you see? How did Jason's enthusiasm impact the team coach, Jim?
Well, enthusiasm is contagious. We used to, one of my other quotes that I used to say is, attitudes are contagious, is yours worth catching. And Jason's attitude and his enthusiasm that he brought every day with him was something that I think our players and our coaches really admired, because he had so much energy and enthusiasm for the team and for basketball every day. And that really rubbed off on people. As I mentioned earlier, we had a tough start to his senior season, but his enthusiasm, I think, really helped keep the team together, and having that energy and that positive attitude was really important to our success.
So it's extremely interesting to me, like a coach and a manager could teach basketball just as practicing the plays and getting the skills and preparing to win. But basketball is so much more than just the mechanics, right?
yeah.
Can you say more about that? How is basketball more than just
Well, team building, and you're working with a group of people, and having the camaraderie with your teammates on and off the court.
Jason, tell them the story when we went out for a little Chinese buffet.
Oh, we had a team building session. I must have ate the China buffet out of business.
Yeah, you got to remember, Jason, he was about senior. He's probably 5'9", 115 pounds, but you wouldn't have known from his hearty appetite.
So how did you determine to just keep eating that night, Jason?
I was hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many plates did you go up for that night, Jason?
Probably about 6 or 7.
That was pretty
dude.
phenomenal.
Jason, what message would you give to someone like me who experiences a disability about
Well, the
going
evil
for
of
what you?
excellence is good. I think you need to write down all your goals of all your passions and do your best to strive for them. And goals are not written until you write it down. And the harder you work, the luckier you get.
What are your goals now, Jason?
I mean, continue to be the best coach and bus attendant I could be. Um, Obviously, get back to, ever since the accident, I've had a desire when I'm cleared to back running, to go back to Boston and qualify and run Boston one last time. And just continue to inspire as many people in the world as I can.
Yeah, Jason's become a really big runner, and he's run. How many marathons you run, J-Mac?
16.
He's run 16 marathons, and he's run Boston how many times? 3
4
times?
times.
4 times. So, and he's actually broke 3 hours in the Boston Marathon, so it's pretty amazing.
you ran, how fast is that mile?
My like that's a 6:38 a mile.
What? And that's like 26 miles.
Yeah.
He's also run some. What's the farthest you ever ran, Jay?
I've run the furthest I ever ran is 55 miles.
What did you do that for?
It was mind the ducks how many miles you can do in 12 hours.
And you did 55 in 12 hours.
Yep.
What is it like to be so accomplished in running and in basketball?
Well, it's just unbelievable that I've been blessed to accomplish so many things in my life. I've been blessed by God to be able to do the things I've done in my life, and then some.
It is a huge blessing.
Yes, it is.
Coach Jim, what has it been like to accomplish what you've accomplished thus far in life?
One of my presentations is called "Dreams Really Do Come True," and that's why I learned a lot from Jason, seeing his dream come true. And then, ironically, our big dream together was to win a Section 5 championship. We accomplished that year. And then actually Jason came back and helped me coach for my last 9 years, and we won 4 more championships together. So he was my good luck charm.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that we learned is the fact that how important it is to have clarity of what you want to strive for in your life, to write it down. We always talk to our players about when you think it, ink it, write it down so you have clarity of what you're trying to accomplish. And then from there, it's really coming up with a plan and then being consistent by taking consistent actions day in and day out to get yourself a little bit better. Jason obviously had that big night, but what people forget is all the unseen hours where he was practicing,
Yep.
And doing all that. And then, he was a runner in high school, but he wasn't really that strong of a runner. But after he graduated from high school, he really decided to get into running a couple years later, and he built his body up. And now he's become an extraordinary runner. So I think the lessons to be learned is that find the things you really enjoy doing. His passion, basketball was a major one. He still helps coach. Running's another thing, and so he invests time into it. And you set goals and you give it your best shot. And those little daily increments, you hear the 1% rule, the 2% rule, where you try to get a little bit better each day. Because then, as we talk about, life accumulates. And all of a sudden, when you do things consistently well, day in and day out, then all of a sudden something special happens, where you have a great race or win a Section 5 championship or whatever your ultimate goal. But the other thing is you really embrace the journey. And the fact that, really the neat thing about being in basketball is you're around and you're building unity with a team, which is so cool when you got it going, and to see how you unite as a team and then being able to succeed on and off the court. Like one of our big missions for our basketball program was to develop winners on and off the court. And so that's something we really took pride in.
Please say more about how you develop winners off the court.
So winning off the court to us was that we were going to be as good as students as we could be, that we were going to be great citizens, that we were going to give back, and we were going to be people that were going to care about each other and support each other through thick and thin. And that's what Jason was a great example of that. And that's why I think his teammates appreciated him so much. All the things he did, as he mentioned, things a lot of people aren't willing to do, he was willing to do to help the team out. And it was pretty neat to see how his teammates embraced him the night he got in and share, or shine the light on him so he could have a great night.
You mentioned the service projects you've done as a team several times. What kind of service projects were they?
Like team pasta dinners. Did a lot of like give back to the community. Like going over to Crescent Ridge, we with the nursing home over there, we did a lot of Salvation Army stuff like that.
Yeah, we were always trying to find ways that we could, support the community. Like a couple of years, we brought our team over and we did Christmas carols at a senior citizen home, and different stuff like that to give back. And it's a great way to unite the team too, because you're doing something off the court, as we said, developing winners off the court as well as on the court.
Do basketball teams, are they kind of teams for life?
It can be relationships for last forever if you like I told people nowadays, only like I'm one of like only like 4 people that live in the state of New York since I graduated from my team.
You're one of only 4.
You're only in high school for 4 years together, and then you're off doing your own thing after.
Jason does a great job of staying in touch with former teammates. He does a really good job with that.
Yep.
So how, Coach, how do you instill the idea of consistency in a practice and players when they're beginning?
Well, I think the one thing is that we were real clear on the type of people that we wanted to pick for our team. So the things we look for, obviously basketball talent was part of that, but also we wanted people that had the love for the game, that wanted to get better. We had people that were what we called we over me guys, which that's what Jason was really good at. And we also had guys that were really had a great work ethic. They wanted to work as hard as they can to be as good as they
You have
could
to be
be.
there on time to get it, though.
And when you do all those things consistently day in and day out, and then we built a system. Like one of the things we always talked about is if you couldn't be on time, be early. So that was something we really lived by.
All right, guys, I gotta get going to shower here and get ready for family dinner here. So
okay, so
cool. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right, Jay, have a good night. So
so how have you, like, you've literally now taken this experience off the court in your own life? You no longer coach basketball, right?
correct.
So what are you doing with this years of experiences now?
So I for many years, and I'm picking it back up, is I did a lot of keynote speeches. So I developed a speech called Dreams Really Do Come True, where I share the story about Jason, and I talk about 6 keys. One is passion, finding what you love in life. Another one is mission, getting clarity of what your personal mission is. Another one is how to be an effective goal setter. The next one is perseverance, which Jason was so great about. He never gave up on himself. Another one we talk about is carpe diem, the ability to seize the day, and that starts with your work ethic and attitude. And then our last one is the fact of being a great teammate, and that again was so good. And then probably for the last 7 or 8 years, I started doing a lot of leadership presentations where I often people still want me to share the JMac story. So I weave in my 7 principles to be an effective leader. And we talk about things like clarifying your vision for your program or your team or your business. We talk about how to develop a personal and team mission statement. Those are very important. We also talk about how to build trust with a team. I really, when I talk to leaders, I want them to be intentional about, because trust is such an essential element of having a successful team. But most people don't think about how do we build trust, and that's something that we devised some things that we look for each day. Like, for one, we wanted to focus on catching our people doing the right thing more than catching them doing the wrong thing. We also wanted to be really open with them and tell the truth. And we wanted to, in trust, you have to have consistency, which we talked about before. So you got to align your thoughts and actions and your words and actions. So if I say that I'm going to be at practice tomorrow at 4:15, if I walk in late, then I've broken some of that trust account. So it's really important. Those are things we really talked about. I also talk about how to create an edge for your team or organization. Like, for example, one of the things that we did a lot of work on is the mental piece of the game. We did a mental imagery before each session, or before each game, excuse me. Another thing we talked about with our players is communication, how to effectively communicate. And I always used to emphasize to them is that you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, so you should listen at least twice as much as you talk. Next thing we talked about is the power of leading by example. We always share with our players that you are always on stage and people are watching you. And are you aligning your words and actions, as we mentioned before, for the trust? Another key I talk about is what I call leaving a profit, and that is our leadership philosophy. And what that simply means is everything we talk to our players, everything we touch, we want to make better, not worse. And I usually give an illustration, like when we would go to an opponent's school to play a game, when we would go in the locker room, if there was garbage on the floor, I would pick it up and throw it out. And I encourage my players, I wanted to leave it better than when we found it. And then the last one, which has become real big in leadership and is something that I really put a lot of effort in, especially in the second half of my career, is servant leadership. And that's simply flipping the pyramid, where the leader traditionally was on top and everybody serves the leader, and taking that mindset and say, no, as the leader, I have to serve my team members. And really, I think the best leaders are people that develop leaders on their team. And when you do that, then I think you have something really special. And of course, I always talk to our players about the first person you got to lead is who? Yourself. If you can't lead yourself, it's very hard to lead others. So, those are some of the things we talked about. And I do some workshops as well. I do a goal setting workshop. We've talked a little bit about that. I also do a leadership workshop. And I actually, most recently, I devised a new speech called Who's Your JMac? And it's all about inclusion, which we talk about how to make your team feel valued, and how to pick the right people, and how to develop people embracing your mission. So those are some of the things we to talk about with my new presentation on inclusion.
Yeah, your book, I loved reading it. It's just the story is so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very proud of that book, and I got to give you some kudos to your book, Awkwardly Awesome. I read that as well and promoted that. I really enjoyed your book as well, so thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
My pleasure.
So, what else can you say about the nuts and bolts of inclusion? It's kind of become a buzzword, but
Yeah.
how but there's a huge difference between it being a buzzword and JMac having those miraculous 4 minutes.
Yeah, so
So
I
how
think
do you span that gap?
I think the thing that you have to do is, a lot of people talk about inclusion. You said it's a buzzword, but are you really living it day in and day out? And I think so. I think the first thing is you have to have clarity of who you want in your team. Okay, and so making sure, and the who should be about what you look for from character situations. So certainly you want people that are talented in whatever your business or team is about. But you also, like, one of the things we looked at is, are you passionate about our mission? In our case, it was, to be part of a successful basketball team. Are you someone that really wants to be coached, thinking and focuses on getting better? We called it CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And then, are you what we call a we over me guy? Are you someone that's going to put the team first over? And Jason was a great illustration, as he mentioned. His favorite part of his senior year, which I still am amazed is, wasn't his game. It was actually the 3 weeks after his game we won our first Section 5 championship. So I think that's where it starts, is getting the who on the right people on your team. And then the second thing is really getting clarity. I call it being the chief reminding officer. As a leader, you have to be consistently living and sharing the mission. So the mission is, whatever you believe in, your core values. So like one of our core values is respect. So one of the things as a leader, I have to set the example that I'm going to respect all of our team members day in and day out. I'm going to respect all our opponents. I'm going to respect the officials. I'm going to respect people in general. If that's a core value as a leader, you better be living that consistently each day. So I think having the clarity of everyone knowing the mission and knowing the core values and living that consistently, it helps inclusion, because everybody knows the expectations and the standards. And then the third thing is you got to really do a good job of promoting, making people feel like they're valuable and welcome. And one of the things I always talk about is that it's nice. You got to catch people doing right more than wrong, and you got to praise them specifically. So I give an example in basketball. Instead of saying, "Nice job, Johnny," or "Nice job, Susie," it's, "Johnny, that was great effort. I loved how you dove on the floor for that loose ball. That's going to help us become a better team." And so they really get clarity of what you're looking for and that you're praising it. And then making them feel appreciated by knowing that you care about them as people first. Like I always used to say, and you hear this all the time, it's not how much you know. People don't care how much you know until they care how much you care about them first. So with that in mind, is like one of the things that I did is every single kid in our program from 7th grade all the way to varsity would receive a birthday card from me. So I wrote it in my calendar and I recognized that. And then if any kid that made one of our honor rolls, I would always post it up on our bulletin board, all the guys that made honor roll or high honor roll, and just finding different ways. As we said, we want to develop winners on and off the court. So you got to praise them not only for basketball things, but for being good people and really connecting with them and showing them you care on a daily basis is how you build inclusion. And again, you've got to be consistent with your discipline, consistent with your praise. Because if people feel like you're only praising a few people and not other people, then that's where inclusion, and because inclusion to me it starts with respecting all people. It doesn't matter whether they're tall or small, heavy or thin, black, white, purple, if they believe in, if they're Jewish or Catholic or Protestant, that doesn't make any difference. You got to make people feel that they're welcome to be part of something special. And that to me is what inclusion is all about.
I'm fascinated with J Mac also included himself. He was I don't how many practices did he miss in the few years? Just a few, right?
Yeah, very few. I mean, he was there. The only time he would ever miss is if he was sick from school or something, which wasn't very often. So he rarely ever missed practice or a game. And even, see, the other thing is, going back to the who, is that, yes, Jason has some challenges in his life, as we well know. But the other side of it is that he was someone that we could count on, that he had a great love for the team and that he was going to show up every day, show up on time. And it was very meaningful to him. And so those are the things we want people like that. And we're going to include them, even though they have, some challenges in life like Jason did.
He didn't show up like half an hour late and saying, I'm showing up late because I have challenges.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's something that you really got to magnify in your program or in your business is that, people have different challenges and you're willing to work with them. But that's where, I go back to one of our leadership keys is communication. Like one of the things is, we're human beings. There's times that we may have something come up in our life, but it was really important that you communicate that. Otherwise, there was consequences if you came late. So it was really important that you were consistent with the standards that you set. And I think the higher the standards you're able to set, then the goals seem to follow that. If you allow lower standards, then lower standards and high goals don't usually work very well together. You got to have high standards to establish, challenging goals for sure.
Speaking of challenging goals, what's next for you, Coach Jim?
Well, I've got a couple things that I've started. I have a podcast as well that I started with two other people. It's called the Limitless Leadership Lounge. And our goal is we want to help young and emerging leaders. So we've been doing it for just over a year. So we're excited. It's been growing and it's a way that I can give back and help young and emerging leaders. I'm also working on a second book with one of our, we have three people, we call it a tri-generational because I'm the old guy, I'm in my 60s. And then we have a college professor and she's actually originally from Bangladesh. She's in her 40s. And then we have a young guy that's our host that's only 23 years old. So the three of us work and we have guests and it's been pretty neat. And the college professor and I are also working on a book on the same topic to help young and emerging leaders. So I in the short term, I'd like to get the book out. And certainly I want to try to make an impact as much as I can by just trying to find different ways to help and serve people. I love giving presentations because that's a way I can make an impact. I like to coach people and help them, with various things in their life. And so, I love mentoring people. And so I'm just where I am in my life is two major things. I want to be an example for people, a positive example, and what I call being an outstanding role model as best I can each day. And I want to find ways to contribute and add value to people.
That's wonderful, and it sounds like it'll give you a very full and meaningful. It gives you a vocation and meaningful and exciting work to do, which is awesome. I know I love having meaningful work. I One question I ask all my guests. So I talk about the power of doing our imperfect best, and what it means to me is we set goals and we have the vision of our best. Then when mistakes and complications and imperfections come up, instead of using those as an excuse to quit, we learn from them and go forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Coach Jim?
Well, I think you got a great point there. And I would say for me is your imperfect best is the fact that number one, you got to enjoy and embrace the journey. So each day that you come out and do the best you can and try to create ways that you can improve yourself and create ways where you can help improve and add value to others. So I think that's where it all starts. And also understand that we all set a lot of different goals and some of them we meet, and that's really great. But what I've learned in my life is that even when I don't make a goal, is I usually learn a lot from that. And even though I might not have made this major goal, I still did some things that were good for the world, for helping me, and so I think really getting clarity that we're not perfect, and as much as we have visions of where we want to go, and sometimes we got to be ready for those curveballs in life. And when you get a curveball, you're ready to make the adjustment. I mean, certainly no one saw this thing called a pandemic, right? Yet we've all had to pivot and make different ways, and the people that are doing that are having more success. So you have to be willing to embrace change and be willing to make adjustments on a daily basis. But having some real core values and core routines, I think, are really helpful. Like, it's hard to accomplish your goals if you don't have energy. So I really push people. Do you have your own personal wellness plan? Are you taking care of yourself? Because if you have energy, you can create things that are good for yourself and good for others. But if you don't have, your health, it's hard to do anything else. So, really think about some of those things you can do to take care of yourself, so you can take care of others.
Great words, great advice. Last question: how can people get a hold of you if they want to hear more of the story, or have you in to speak to the business to talk about all these powerful concepts?
Yeah, so thanks. So the best way is to reach out on my website, which is coachjimjohnson.com. On that, we have actually a free newsletter people can receive that we come out with once a month. I also do a free weekly blog that they can sign up for on the website. And certainly, I have a lady that helps manage me, and between the two of us, Kate, her name is, and myself, if we can help you with in some way, whether it be a presentation or some other way, we'd love to hear from you, and we're there for you again. So it's coachjimjohnson.com, and if you need some inspiration, we've got the JMac video on there that's pretty inspiring, and some other things as well. So if anybody I can help, feel free to reach out to me.
Well, thanks so much for being on Coach Jim, and thanks to J Mac too. I love what you both in your in your in your 2005 2006 team, and then the student body. I love what you all came together to create. It's an epic story of inspiration of how different people can come together to create magic, to create miracles, and I've learned so much from thinking about the story, and I'm inspired by it to live my best life. So thank you.
My pleasure. It was great to be on, and I'll pass it on to Jason. I really enjoyed the time with you, Jason, and I want to encourage you to keep up your great work. I know you're inspiring a lot of people with what you do, so keep that going, and I love to continue our relationship. I'm hoping someday we'll get a chance to meet in person. So
I love to come to Rochester sometime.
I'd love to come out and see you as well. So
Yeah, I
definitely.
mean, yeah, Sioux Falls is a nice place too.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Well, great to see you. Thanks again.
my pleasure. Thanks, Jason.
Ah, the, isn't that story exciting? I had even had a video of it to show of the actual of JMax for for minutes, and it's great. I urge you to look up the video and just think about J Mac rising to the occasion, rising to the opportunity, and creating magic out there. And then also think of all the other people who helped that dream come true. And there's always such an important point. When we think of our goals and dreams, sometimes it's so overwhelming because we feel like we have to do it alone. But really, really, we form teams around us, and we do things as teams, and other people help us, and we help other people, and J-Mac and Coach Jim are such great examples of that. So thanks for tuning in, and tune in next week when I talk to Andrea Sanchez, who just she's really rose up during the pandemic and helped bring people together and remind them of the power of that story. So please tune in next week. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.